Hey guys, welcome to my live stream. My name is Hannah. Am I dreaming? Am I dreaming going live or am I actually going live? Because I'm pretty sure I've got my pajamas on. My Peter Alexander black cat pajamas, because why wouldn't you? Oh my god, am I dreaming? No, I'm not dreaming. I'm trying to have a joke. But I am in my pajamas. I didn't even write anything on the title of this live stream. How about that? What I wanted to write, I wonder if I can edit it because it's really important what I actually wanted to write and talk about, not just the fact that I'm in my pajamas. My Peter Alexander pajamas. Let me just type it in now. While my cat's going bonkers in a box out there is the noise that you can hear. Good evening. Good evening. I was going to say like chats and chais, but I've got a chamomile tea. Okay, hang on a sec. The title of this live stream is, it's a little bit, I'm in my pajamas and we're having a chat before I go to bed, but it's a little bit of a rant, this live stream. It's also a little bit of a like, what the fuck's going on? It's also a reminder, do we remember that I don't know, the other day whenever I did a live stream and I said about the eclipse windows, and today, it's nighttime here now, but today was like the 7-day window of the eclipse and a lot of us felt it like it was the eclipse again, and I'm curious how you guys were going with that. All right, so the title of this live stream is, oh yeah, that's right. What was I going to call this live stream? I was going to call it, it's really important, it's really, really important. You may as well tell somebody that they are cursed and you can't flippin' change it. I'm going to say you can't fucking change it, but I'm just going to write flippin' change it in there. You may as well tell somebody that they're cursed and there's nothing that you can do about it. That's what I actually wanted to write. Here we go. The flow's starting to come out. Are we ready? I'm just writing the title in this live stream because I forgot to. Because I'm in my pajamas and that's my excuse. No. Okay. You may as well tell somebody that they're cursed and you can't do anything about it. That's what I was going to say. And you can't do anything about it. And this little bit is a rant that I'm first going to talk about this, because if you guys know me, you know what I feel and believe about curses, and I am in my pajamas and I do have no makeup on. You're getting me full, real, raw and live. So yeah, so you may as well tell somebody that they're cursed and you can't do anything about it. I do have a bee in my bonnet. I am a little bit ranty about this topic. And Life Purpose Accelerator. Doors are closing soon for Life Purpose Accelerator. I'm just typing this in the title of the live stream because I didn't do it before I went live. It's pretty hilarious. Yeah, so my 12-month mentorship in pajamas. No. I just like my pajamas. Don't you think they match? Like black cat. I saw these at Peter Alexander. I walked past when my daughter wanted to get some. And I saw these in there. I'm like, I cannot not walk out without these pajamas. Like the woman who has 9 black cats. Well, sorry, I've got 7 black cats and 2 black and white ones. 9 cats cannot walk out of here without these Peter Alexander pajamas. It's just a thing. It's not happening. That's why they came home with me. And now I'm doing a live stream in them because whatever. But anyway, it's a really important topic of this live stream. You may as well tell somebody that you're cursed and you can't do anything about it. You're cursed and you can't do anything about it. I do have a bit of a bee in my bonnet to talk about this topic. It's really important. And I'm also going to talk about, hang on, let me share this. There's a few things I want to talk about. It's pretty important. Let me concentrate while I share this. Otherwise, I share it to the wrong places. Share to your story. I'm a little bit nervous about what I'm going to talk about. It's It's all right. I got my chamomile tea. I'm gonna be good in a minute. It's all right. All right, tissues are there. That's good. They have your name written all over them. I know, right? I could not walk out without them. I was like, I'm pretty sure Peter Alexander designed them just for me. Oh, because who else has 9 cats? I don't know. There's actually quite a few people that message me and they're like, I've got this many cats, or I've got this many cats. I'm like, oh really? That makes me feel better because I didn't think that anyone else had this many cats. Or I've got this many dogs, or this many dogs. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'm not just the only crazy cat lady here. It wasn't planned, by the way. My cat got pregnant twice before I could get her pregnant, and I took responsibility for them. Great idea at the time because, you know, I didn't want them ending up in an animal shelter, because how many people get a cat or an animal and then ends up in an animal shelter? And I was like, I don't want to be responsible for that. Didn't plan a pregnancy. I decided to, you know, take responsibility of them all. It was a great idea at the time, but fuck, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work when there is mold to clean up constantly in the house, in the hinterland, outside. It is muddy because Queensland and New South Wales are people who are in Australia. Can I just have like some like, yes, you're not alone, Hannah, because do you have mold? Are you over the freaking rain? I think we've had like 3 solid weeks of it now, and I think it's going on 4 months where we've had like this tiny little bit of sun, and I'm like, I'm dying over here. I'm like, come on. Just let me take it a little deeper. It's a bit like that. So this live stream is a rant. You might as well tell somebody that they are cursed, and you can't do anything about it, because we know what, if you guys know me about curses, I want to say I don't believe in them, in a sense that everything is real, okay? But also with curses, like the thing that irritates me with curses is when people turn around and like, you know, many years ago when I began online, I was in like many of these spiritual groups online, and someone would like say about, you know, like, what did they say? They're like, you know, I woke up with scratches on myself in the night. Somebody help me. And like, there's like 40,000 people in this group. And all these people are like, you're cursed and you're never going to get like through this. And someone's like haunting you for life. And I'm like, how can people fucking say this to people? Like, this is the thing that really irritates me, when people are like, this is how it is for you. And this is where like people just go on and live their life. And that's what happens. It's like psychics that tell people, you know, like, this is your future. And they're like, oh, and that's why we get a bad name. And also like, that's not the fucking truth. That no reality is set in stone for tomorrow. Only if that person makes those same choices over and over and over again, yeah, they're going to end up with that outcome. But they also have all these other outcomes. Are you going to tell them about that as well? I get really, really annoyed about it. Like, so annoyed about it. That's why I created an entire course about it. That's why I do what I do online. Because I'm like, people need to fucking wake up from this shit. Okay, I'm a little bit of a rant, okay? So, hence the title of my live stream, very, very important, which is, you might as well tell somebody that they're cursed and there's nothing you can do about it. That actually relates to something, so I'm going to talk to you about it. It's not necessarily about a curse. I'm going to give you an update on my finger because everybody seems to be asking about it, so they must have felt something happening with it, because stuff is happening with it and stuff is not happening with it. It is still broken. Let me explain soon. So I'm going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the eclipse window that we've just had, this 7-day window, because the other day I did say there's windows and there's going to be like portals and we're going to feel it like it's the eclipse. I can't even remember exactly what I said on that live stream until I go and watch it again, but pretty sure I said 3-day, 5-day, and 7-day. I don't know if I said 10-day as well. Today was the 7th day, and there was a lot of people that felt it like it was happening again. And so when I talk about, you know, I talk about a full moon portal window or the eclipse window, it's like, you know, 3 days after the peak, we'll feel it again. Like whatever we're feeling on like the full moon or the eclipse or whatever, we'll just feel it again. We'll feel it again. It's almost like, I don't know, it's like bubbles of reality that we sort of bust out of, if you may. So I'm going to talk about that. So the Queensland, New South Wales rain and all the mold, and like I said, I just thought it was me because I live in the hinterland. I've learned that I'm like, okay, when there's rains, and I live in an old Queenslander, they're not technically sealed like a concrete, beautifully architecturally designed home is, which is the one that I'm working towards. My dream home, right? You know, those beautiful architectural concrete design homes? Yeah, that one. So I thought it was just me, but then I hear like other people are also going through the mold issue because it has been like constant rain in Queensland and North and New South Wales because all of a sudden it's like El Nino again, or El Nino or something, right? We've switched from the drought to the floods to the water, right? And I think we're all maybe ready for some like sunshine again. But then I see people on their stories and they're like inland of like, you know, Queensland, out in the country, like country, not hinterland, and it's like sunny and stuff, and I'm like, I think I just need to go for a drive in the car. So I'm also going to talk about these bubbles of reality. These bubbles of reality that, you know how like in December 2020, I think it was, pretty sure it was December 2020, and we felt it really significantly of like, the earth is splitting in two. There was even things going around on the internet and whatever, like the earth is literally splitting in two, and people are like, what? And it's like the consciousness is splitting. And what I want to say is like, there's many bubbles of reality. There's many like consciousness bubbles. There's lots of reality bubbles. So let's talk about the timelines. So time has changed, but the timeline has changed. And now we talk about a timeline, and it's literally like a freaking timeline, right? It's a timeline. So we talk about a timeline, you know, people on timelines of reality or parallel realities. Well, in 2018, in April 2000, no, it was July 2018, June, July 2018, that's interesting. We're almost about that as well. I got the strong message, I even did a live stream on it, and it was like, reality is not linear anymore. It's not a straight line anymore. It's not linear anymore. And it was like, I got the message, it's like it's horizontal. It's like it's gone flat. It's a web, right? And it's more like this. And there's still lines of reality. And you want to talk about like telling somebody's future, for example. It's like, well, they're on this line and that's what it's going to be. But you didn't tell them that they've got all these other opportunities. They can just jump onto this timeline and create a different reality. Don't get me started on that again. And then I got the message that time is not lines anymore. It's actually like we're standing on these little dots, and we can like, reality is like these little dots, but they're actually like bubbles, and we can actually like pop into little bubbles, and the little bubbles of reality. It's actually not like, time has changed. Like if you really feel into what time is and has been, you know, from 5 years ago, like it's very different. Yeah. And so it's not like these lines anymore. It's literally like bubbles of reality. And so it's like, and this is why it's not linear anymore. It's not like we're going from past to future, whichever, you know, everybody knows that reality's never really been that anyway, right? Let's be real. But we're feeling it more. If we talk about the illusion, if we talk about new earth, if we talk about the world order crumbling, even though it seems like they have a lot of power, they're really gripping on and everything is actually crumbling, right? When we really look at that, it's like the veil's just coming down. Like, what is it? Not the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. What's the other one? Dorothy, the Wizard of Oz. the what is it? The guy behind the big curtain. They're pulling back the curtain. Dorothy and Toto and whoever are pulling back the curtain, and this big man is trying to like be all scary. Like, that's fucking what's happening, right? And so reality is shifting because we're becoming more conscious of it, becoming more conscious of ourselves. As I always have said in the past, you can't stop consciousness awakening. And so reality is not these timelines anymore. It's literally like bubbles of reality. And we're literally like, you know, sort of like we can jump to whichever reality, and that's why it's not past and present. It's literally like all of them. If you can imagine like blowing bubbles, and there are bubbles everywhere. Like, that's kind of how reality is at the moment. Like bump into people's bubbles and shit. I don't know. So we're going to talk about that, what I kind of just did, but in a sense of like, time, the bubbles of reality, but this is a bit of a personal share, and it is a bit of a wake up for me. Like, the eclipse energy always brings stuff back from your past, but I want to talk about as well how your past is changed and will never be the same. And I know that's like a no-brainer, but there's a lot of people that I know that are working through stuff at the moment where it's like we can't go back to our old reality if we tried. And I know that's, again, sounds like a no-brainer, but there's a lot of people that have been like reminiscing on it. And specifically what I want to talk about, I'll just share now of this part of it, and I'll check the comments in a moment, is that for me personally, I've been here for just over 18 months now, almost 2 years now. And where I used to live for 8 years, if you guys have followed me for a long time, you see me at the beach all the time. I used to live very close to the beach, be spending a lot of time at the beach. I fucking love the beach. I'm a mermaid at heart, blah, blah, blah. And it's been a massive process for me to move out in the country, 45 minutes away, hardly get to the beach. Then the dog attack happened. Like, just like, how did my life end up like this? And I think there's a lot of people that are in this space at the moment too. And that's why I feel called to share this, because I've had a lot of insight about it for myself and my clients. There's a few clients that are going through it as well. It's kind of no-brainer as well. Soulmate clients, which Life Purpose Accelerator will be closing soon. It's my 12-month mentorship. I was like, to just checked my like list before I jumped on this live stream. I was like, oh yeah, there's like, it's closing soon. And I'm like, actually no, there's only 2 places left. So it's either closing soon or those 2 places get filled. So send me a message if you know you need to be in my one-on-one 12-month mentorship. Yeah, and so like, if I just give you a prime example, like for today, okay, so today after this appointment, which I'll talk about soon, because this is like, you might as well tell somebody that they're cursed and you can't fucking do anything about it. We're going to chop your finger off, okay, because that's the only solution. I'm like, yeah, like fuck it is. Anyway, so got a little bit of a bee in my bonnet, but anyway, and so I went to that appointment, and then my daughter and I went down to the storage container that we had that's near our own place, our old place, and she wanted to get more teddies out. If you guys saw my story on the weekend, we gave the teddies an upgraded room. Who on my live stream saw I don't know, I did a live stream a while ago and showed you the teddy room, and I said they're gonna get an upgraded room soon. Well, that's started in process. Anyway, so she knew that there was more teddies in the storage shed. So we went down to get more teddies out of the storage shed. Like, we need more for the room, but hey, they're in there. So why not bring them all up, right? And so we went down there, and then we got some lunch, and I was about to drive like the other way back home. And I'm like, oh my God, we're so close to the beach. Like, let's just go and sit at the beach and look at the water while we eat in the car. And it was even that, like, you know, I used to be like beach, 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 beach. And for me to like move away from the beach, this time has been reminding me of when I used to live in Brisbane, and from the Sunshine Coast, which, you know, in Brisbane there's no beach, okay? There's water, but there's a big island, so it's not a full beach. It's not a proper beach. It's still the water, but it's not the beach. And so then I've like, when I was in Brisbane and I was there for 18 months, it brought up a lot of stuff where my resource was taken away. I went to the beach every freaking day. And when I moved to Brisbane many years ago, this is in 2006, after I had my spiritual awakening, I was facing some pretty big, deep, dark stuff because my resource was taken away. And for those of you who don't know what a resource is, it's almost like an addiction. It helps you to feel better. Now, some people think, well, you need those things to help feel better. They're self-care. And I'm like, yeah, but as I always say, sometimes, and a lot of the times, if you can't live without that thing because it's still covering up stuff, right? So the self-care of me going to the beach was also my escape, if you may, right? Like, you know, some people have drugs, some people have food, people have whatever, right? Like, spirituality can become a drug. Like, when I got off recreational drugs in 2005, spirituality became my drug, right? I had my spiritual awakening. I was like, I don't need this shit anymore after many years of being on it. And spirituality became my drug. And that became, when I realized that was a huge thing to even like, how do I not do my spiritual practices if that's what makes me feel better, but it was still covering up the deeper stuff. And that's what moving to Brisbane did many years ago, is it made me face the deeper stuff that the ocean was covering up. The same thing has happened since moving out here in the country. And you might think, Hannah, it's only a 45-minute drive. And it's like, yeah, when you used to a 5-minute drive after 8 years, like, and being out here, like, it's a big drive. It's a big difference, right? For me, work-wise, I can't just jump in the car and go for a quick walk on the beach. Like, it's a 3-hour round trip. When you are a mum and you run a business or a company and you've got 9 cats and a whole menagerie and everything else to take care of, and then fit yourself in there somewhere, like, you know, 3 hours is a big deal, right? So it's been bringing up a lot of stuff, but this is sort of tapping into world stuff as well, because something has changed. Now, that's a no-brainer. Because if we look at the world stuff, it's like, well, check out the world stuff, right? And, you know, the sea and everything that's made the world shut down and slightly reopen and everything, everyone's like on edge, still waiting, like, okay, what's happening next? There's an undertone of that, right? There is. And it's interesting because aside from all that stuff, everyone's been facing some big, dark, deep stuff. And this eclipse, this blood moon eclipse, has really brought up the past in a sense of like, you know, I've been thinking like I'm missing the beach so much. And a lot of the time when I'm bawling my eyes out crying about something, it always drops back into I miss the fucking beach. Like there's times when it waves over me and I'm howling about how much I miss the ocean. And then when my daughter and I were sitting there at the ocean today, like even she was saying, she's like, that sandbank wasn't there and that sandbank wasn't there. Now, given like it's kind of like cyclonic season in a way, like whatever, there's all this rain hanging around. The ocean is a fucking mess right now. Like it is like brown. If you look at my story, it should still be there. Actually, I put it on my story today. I was like, it's not what it used to be. Like it's brown, it's muddy, it's foamy. There's been a lot of floods here in Queensland and New South Wales the past few months. Like it's brown, it's yuck. It's messy, it's windy, it's rainy, like it's gross. And I was just looking at it and I'm like, I miss the beach, but it's not that I'm missing. It's the memories and the experiences that I've once lived there. It's my past that I'm missing. Like that's pretty significant to even realize, right? And I know for some people it's like, well, that's a no-brainer, Hannah, like duh. But it is interesting, right? It's a bit like when we're grieving the loss of a relationship. You know, if you weren't married or anything like that, I find I've had a lot of clients over the years and like you're actually grieving what you thought the relationship was, or you're grieving what the relationship was. Does that make sense? Like, you know, you're actually grieving that you never got married, or it was like you were married, but you actually never got married and it was actually quite shit, but you're grieving that, you know, it's like, it's so interesting. And I feel like there's a lot of veils of illusion being like, you know, pulled away. Like a lot of people have felt recently the veils are very thin, but when we're sitting there and it's like the ocean was just a mess, like, and even my daughter said, she's like, you know, as I said, the sandbanks and stuff aren't there. And I said, yeah, it's interesting. And do you know what I turned around? Do you know what just came out of my mouth when I was speaking to her? I was like, I wonder, this is a little bit scary what came out of my mouth actually when I thought about it. I said to her, I was like, yeah, it's definitely not how we used to have it. Because little side note, when we used to live there for 8 years, like it was always pristine magic. Like if you followed me for years, you see so many photos on my Facebook and Instagram, like we were always at the beach and it was always amazing, and the water, and I'd go surfing all the time and it was fucking like magic, like this like tropical island stuff. Like, do you know what I mean? Like magic beaches. And it hasn't been like that for a long time here, and something is changing, right? And I said to her, and I said, it just rolled out of my mouth, and I said, I wonder if we're experiencing the country now in its beauty that it won't be. And I was like, and I actually caught myself saying that, and I'm like, I hope not. And how is that even possible? And I hope not, because does that make sense? Now, in other parts of the world, it might be normal. Everything might be normal and there's none of this stuff going on. But something here in Australia has been changing for the last couple of years. And I know that I'm not the only one that has noticed it. And I just wanted to bring that up to start with, right? And the way that we're grieving something in the past is actually a letting go, so that we can bring in our future. Like a lot of us have been doing a lot of manifestation work, a lot of like deep healing work, a lot of blah, 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 blah. And when we're doing all this, like creating a new life and moving forward, sometimes we forget that when we actually move to the next place, for example, right, the missing of all of that is the letting go of all of that and the grief of that, even the happy memories, because you're recalibrating for the new life. But at the same time, something's changing energetically, so whatever. Anyway, okay, so I'm just going to check these comments and then I'm going to talk about my finger in depth. And a little side note on the mold. So I think I saw a couple of comments, people have said that Yep, today was a weird day. Insane energy today. Yeah, and this is the thing where the eclipse windows, I talk about these windows, guys. This is so important so you guys know, okay, like when you're feeling like, okay, like check in. Okay, when was the full moon? When was the new moon? We're not blaming it on the things, but it's good to know this stuff. Was there a volcano in my country next door? Like, you sensitive empaths, you feel that shit, okay? So it's like checking in, like, where was the full moon? Okay, am I on a window peak? You know, it's like, where's the timeline of it? Like, it's so important to check in. Oh yeah, so about the mold thing, I almost posted on Facebook, like when I was like cleaning, and I was like cleaning and crying, and then it wasn't until like a couple of hours later and I was chatting to my friend on text, and then I walked away from my phone and I was like, oh my fucking God. It was the peak window timeline point from the eclipse last week when I was feeling all my stuff, right? And I was bawling my eyes out, cleaning them all, going like, how is this my life? Like, what the fuck? Like, no shit, right? And it's so important, right, to understand, like, I know deep down, and I'm letting go of stuff, but at the same time, I'm just like, where's my concrete house already? That's what I'm building up. Oh yeah, so the mold. So I was about to post on Facebook and I was like, I'll just do a live stream on it tonight or whenever. But I was going to say, because I wanted to have the full context. And I don't want to talk too much about it on here because, you know, I want to keep my account open so I can talk to you guys. So if you want to talk about world stuff, like I've got my reality awareness support group on Telegram. That's where we chat about the stuff in detail. But I want to say this. You know, and it's kind of funny and it's not, and it's just like, what the fuck, all at the same time. I wanted to post on Facebook and say, you know, the Klaus Schwab thing, and he's like, you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. You know, that thing, right? We know the bigger picture of all that stuff. If you know, you know. And I was like, what? Because I got mold over everything, I have to keep chucking everything out all the time and you own nothing and be happy? Oh, I see, I got it. For fuck's sake. I'm sorry, it's funny and it's not funny, and I'm just like, oh, for real though. Like, if you understand the bigger picture of what I'm talking about, you'll sort of get that. And it's just like, for real? Like, for real. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, that's hilarious, right? Okay, I'm just gonna check these comments and then I'm gonna talk about my finger. And then I'm going to bed because I've got my chamomile tea. And usually I have my wind down time, but I'm having my wind down. No, I'm not having a wine. This is my chamomile tea for my wind down before bed, but I'm having a live stream with you at the same time in my pajamas, in my Peter Alexander pajamas. If you've just joined the live stream, I thought they were very appropriate, and it would have been rude not to be able to walk out of Peter Alexander without my personally designed for Hannah black cat pajamas because I own 9 cats. Oh my God, I think I'm a little bit tired. Okay. I'm just going to check these comments. Okay. Sabrina says it was intense. It brought up a lot last night. I know, right? It's been bringing up a lot. And, oh yeah, I'll talk about it in a minute. Comments, Hannah. Okay. Hello, and thank you for everybody being here. Please, in my pajamas. Yes, Life Purpose Accelerator. Melon, so excited for you. Life Purpose Accelerator, guys. I was thinking before, if you just joined, my Life Purpose Accelerator closes soon, but I actually realized before I jumped on this live stream, when I checked my list, I was like, actually, there's only 2 places left. So those 2 places fill up, and it closes, or it closes. Whatever one comes first. So Life Purpose Accelerator is my 12-month one-on-one with me because we need to get in our pajamas. No, I'm kidding. I was like, I said to Adaya, I was like, I'm just going live because I always just tell her when I'm going live in case she, you know, walks past or whatever, just so she knows. And she's like, looked at me and she's like, you're going like, what for? And I was like, yeah, my pajamas. And she's like, yeah, why? I was like, why not? Oh my goodness, I am tired, especially after today. And I haven't finished talking about my today with my finger and all the things. Samantha, my pajeejees. Oh my goodness, I'm tired. I'm actually a little bit embarrassed. I'm actually fucking nervous talking about my finger, to be honest. That's where the tears, I can already feel them coming out. If I can't be real with you guys, how are we going to be on a retreat together, right? That's where my head's at. No. A big part of me doing this live stream in my pajamas right now is also me remembering who I am. That it's important that I do live streams in pajamas. No, I'm really fucking... I'm a little bit Lulu tonight. because of everything that happened today. No, my train of thinking was like, if I can't do my live stream in my pajamas and talk to you like a normal person, because I can get dressed up, I can get all fancy, and I fucking love that. And I also love just lounging around in my pajamas and talking to you like a normal person, because I'm human too, and why can't I? Well, it's actually where that's come into is me actually remembering that my branding is being real. That's a really big one. I get a little bit caught up sometimes, I definitely do, in like, oh my God, my business has got to look this certain way, and my business has got to look, you know, like all professional and shit. And I'm like, well, it fucking does. It does. It does. It's got its branding, it's got all that. And also my branding is also being real. Whether I'm dressed up to the nines and getting my hair done and all sorts of shit, or whether I'm in my pajamas about to go to bed. Like, my branding is about being real, because it's in reality. It's reality awareness. And that means all places, all aspects of reality, all little bubbles of reality. That's what that is, right? And that's why Life Purpose Accelerator, we cover all areas of your life. Because it's not just one area that is your purpose. It's called Life Purpose Accelerator for an entire reason. Because every area interconnects and affects every single other one, right? All right. Leon says, yo, how are you? Don't be, got this. And the messages you share are awesome. Thank you. Samantha says, you are the best. Thanks, guys. Riani, thanks, Hannah, because I'm under psychic attack. Okay, awesome. Not awesome, but if you want more information about that, I've done a live stream on curses, hexes, and spells, and why, you know, like why I get so when people like, you know, talk about them and don't really know what they're talking about, and like, oh my God, anyway, don't get me started. If you need help and support with that right now, just type in curses below, and I'll get my team to send you the video tomorrow now, because she's offline now. Yeah, I did a live stream about it. So if you need help with that, just comment curses and you can watch that live stream, because I've done a whole live stream on that. Phil says you're not alone. Yes, PJs. PJs are the best. Okay. Enough of the rain. I know, right? Oh my God. The mold and the rain is crazy. I know. And it's so interesting, right? That we're being like, you'll own nothing and you'll be happy, pushed out with the mold. Like we're like, do you know what I mean? It's so interesting to me. And I'm like, yeah, no, it's not going to work with me. Sorry. Okay. Leon says, what happened with your fingers? Yes. Well, we can talk about that. Epic words carry so much energy, truth, and hold so much. Thank you. Lanina, thank you. I always get them confused. A bit like my eyes and my E's. Lots of singular views and segregation between so many people. I know it sucks, right? My feet are getting cold. Okay. Rihanna says, yes, I'm over the rain and the mold spraying. Also in hinterland of Queensland. Yeah, so the hinterland is like I'm conscious I'm in the hinterland. Like I've learned that this is what happens. You're in, like you live in the hinterland, Hannah, like duh, like deal with it. But I struggle with it a bit. My poor husky is trapped on the balcony. Oh my, can you imagine 9 cats inside? And the rats and the dog? No, the cats have been out. But then like when they come back in, I'm like drying every single one in their paws. And yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot sometimes. Phil says, I didn't go to work today and ended up cleaning mold. Oh my God, this is hilarious, right? Not hilarious, it's annoying. So interesting. Yeah, Dana Murder, so interesting. So the last full moon and eclipse was deeply intense. Wasn't it about 18 months ago that you mentioned the mold in the house? Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because when I first moved in, the mold in one of the bathrooms was like became really bad. It didn't have proper ventilation and stuff, and they've fixed that now. But then after like several rainfalls and then the floods and me realizing and landing and actually landing that I live in the hinterland and I live in the country, and like this is how it is with the bugs and the snakes and the ticks and stuff, even though I fucking despise it, and the leeches. People are like, oh, it must be beautiful. I'm like, oh yes, amazing. And you know, like, you know, in saying that, what I have started to realize is I am landing here now because I've learnt to live. Like on Saturday when I had to go into town and I didn't want to, and it was pouring rain again, and I'm like the little break me down things are like my car is, I need my F truck already, but it's also with the concrete house. But you know, like my car, like I can't even wear my good boots to my car because the long grass, because the lawnmower man can't come because it's like too wet and you'd get bogged because it's that freaking muddy. So it's like a jungle out there. I can't even wear my good boots. I wear my gum boots and I take my good boots, but then I get into town and it's still raining and I've got my big like all weather jacket on and my jeans. And I'm like, you know what? I'm putting my good boots on still. I'm just going to wear my gum boots. And so I went in and everyone's looking at me and I'm like, how come you're all wearing like the shorts and a t-shirt and you're drenched? Like, where's the like practicalities of living? And I'm like, I must have adjusted to the country. Yep, I think that's what that is. I'm just like, wow, what a reflection. You know, it's just like, talk about landing. Talk about landing. Yeah, so it's interesting, right? So I've learned that like, I live in Queensland, I live in a tropical environment, and on top of that, I live in the hinterland, you know? So, yeah. You're here for the black cat pajamas. Awesome. I got the long bottoms with it as well. Couldn't walk out with that. Thanks, Madeline. Love you too. I always do my live on a Monday in my group in my dressing gown. Oh my God, that's amazing. I love it. We're human. Yes. We can't, how are we going to be on a retreat together? Like, if we can't all sit around in our PJs, for goodness sake, like, tell me about it. All right. Always been one of the things I love about you. Keep it real. I'm pretty sure it was one of the first things I wrote to you saying, oh, yeah. It's what I've come back to realize. And it's funny, right? It's like I go away from it and I come back. And it's not just like I purposely go away from it. I just like all my stuff comes up and I'm like, I'm not good enough, or I don't look like them, or I'm not dressed pretty enough, or like all the shit. Like, especially living out here, it's been so hard. I'm like, barely get my hair done, can't go to the gym, like, well, not can't, choose not to drive 20 minutes and back, you know, like, so anyway, I felt like all these shifts have happened, right, since the eclipse too, and I was like, oh my God, if I get because I can't even walk out here. Well, I can in the cow shit and the slippery mud, and then we get all wet and we all come back in drenched. And I'm like, no, that doesn't really help the mold situation. Anyway, I was looking at treadmills. I was like, if I get a treadmill, I can like walk for an hour a day. I'm like, oh my God, it's happening. So I'm really excited about that. It's probably why I started to feel good, because I'm like, oh my God, I can move again. And it could be like 10 o'clock at night and I could be on the treadmill. I was like, this is my gym at home I've always dreamed of. Cheers to that. That's what I say. So I'm starting to really land here. These are the things that I'm like, oh, okay, this is how we do it. This is how we do hinterland living. And I hope that, you know, after what I said today in the car down at the beach to my daughter, I was like, I wonder if we're like experiencing the country when it's beautiful, like we did at the beach and we moved away. And I was talking to a client just before I got on this live stream, and I said to her, I was like, if I look over my years, I've always just done it just before it's changed, you know, like whatever's happened in the government or the world or whatever, it's like 6 months or a couple of years beforehand, I've always been ahead. And just thinking about that, I'm like, but how could it change? I don't, it's okay. And I'm like, okay, let's enjoy what we have. And really starting to really drop into the gratitude and waking up and hearing the birds and stuff. And I forget about that. And someone came out the other day and they're like, oh, the birds. And I'm like, oh yeah, I hear them all the time. I don't even think about it now. Do you know what I mean? I'm just used to the quiet. It was too quiet for a while and now I'm just used to it. And now I'm like starting to really drop into the gratitude for what I really have. That's a big shift. I think that's what you call when you arrive. Yeah. Riani says, I love that you're good to do a live stream in your PJs. And even more that they have cats on them, I know, right? It's pretty hilarious. Can't really believe it. No, I can. Shelley says, my property in Conedale is the same with the mold. Yeah, I think a lot of people like that because my friend is like that. She's up near Pomona. And then there was another lady, I went into the boot shop the other day. Uh-oh. Yeah, I did just buy myself some more boots. I picked them up on Friday. You know, my big, beautiful brown knee-high boots. I bought a black pair, but they've got like the flingy things on them, whatever they're called. Oh my God, I'm so excited to pick them up. I went in there to get rid of my other boots because they all went fucking moldy. Like, well, just on the like heel bit. Oh, so David, I'm like, are you for real? I just lost it. Like last weekend, I threw so much stuff out and I was like, wow. I was like, nothing really does last, does it? I'm like, everything goes and nothing really does last except the memories. It's interesting, right? And I know this is like a no-brainer, but we're talking about here, but for whatever reason, I'm talking about them. Shelley says, yes, it's changing because more and more city people are moving to the country looking for off-grid living. Yeah, so that's interesting, isn't it? And it's so interesting, and this sounds ridiculous as well, but I'm like missing the beach so much, and I'm like, are you here, Hannah, because the beach is going to come to you? I know that sounds like ridiculously crazy, but in this day and age, anything's possible, and I'm like, no, I'm not going to think about that, but something's changing with it. Something. But that's so true, Shelley. It's so, so true. More and more people are looking for off-grid living. And I was even thinking that when I first moved here, like the 5G, they've turned the 5G on the Sunshine Coast, and I'm just out of it. Like when you look on the map, it's like just sort of two to three suburbs over, and I'm like, wow, I just fucking scored that one, didn't I? And they've turned the 5G on the coast, and I wasn't living there when they had the 5G on, which is just interesting in itself. And this is what I mean. I'm always just intuitively ahead, but it seems like I'm like grieving the loss, and I am, but it's like, you know, if I look at the beach now, I'm like, well, I'm not fucking missing anything right now, am I? I'm actually just missing the memories and the time we had and the connection, and that's even been big to realize. And I'm like, wow, okay, what is it that I'm actually craving, and the connection with my daughter, etc., etc. It's interesting. Yeah, nice escape. Yes. Just landed that one. All right, so what else is there? I got my little list to make sure that yes, you own nothing and you'll be happy because you're throwing all your shit out voluntarily with your fucking mold covered shit. Oh yeah, my boots. So on my boots, and I went in there, I was just like, I can't, like so much stuff went out. And so I went into the boot shop and I was like, can you just like, I don't know, they're still really good. I've barely worn this other pair. And that's why I'm like, I don't know, maybe you can clean them up and sell them. And she's like, no, sell them on like Marketplace or something. And I'm like, oh, because I just can't be bothered doing that shit. I'd rather just give them away to people. I'm funny like that. And then she's like, she's like, these are still really new. And I'm like, I've barely worn them. And she's like, how about you just get some elbow grease and you just like wash it off and then you put it into somewhere to dry. And I was like, okay. Because I actually didn't really want to get rid of my boots. And then anyway, because I'm in the boot shop, well, that was a little bit dangerous, wasn't it? But they're really nice boots, so I've got another pair coming. So now I need to get a beautiful stand for them all. Oh, okay. All right. I think I've avoided talking about my finger long enough. How about we talk about that? And that'll be perfect timing because my phone's probably going to die too, actually. And I've nearly finished my chamomile tea, which means it's nearly bedtime. So... okay, so my finger. So for those of you who do not know, because there's some people who don't, so on the 7th of December, I was mauled by 2 big dogs. I don't know. I think they were American Staffies. I think that's what they were. So out here on the property, so I'm on 250 acres, and so long story short, and if you want more details, you can scroll back on my page to like the 7th of December and you can like have a look around there. And even the live streams in December and January, getting a tickle in my throat. I really want to talk about this. I've got to talk about this because this is the point of my live stream. You might as well tell someone that they are cursed and you can't do anything about it. So yeah, so 7th of December, I was attacked by 2 American Staffies. If I didn't have my trusty gumboots on that I wear for now mud, but back then it was for the snakes and the ticks and spiders and all sorts of jazz. And, you know, I just like keeping my feet clean as well, you know, especially out here in the mud and the cow poo and stuff. So it's just easier to have my gumboots on and keep them at the front door and put them on every time I walk out. Sometimes I take my feet out of my boots and put them on the grass in a nice clean area, but that's not recently with all the rain. Anyway, so I always have my gumboots on. I've learnt to have gumboots on property. And if I did not have my gumboots on, I probably wouldn't be here talking to you today. So, you know, there was 2 of them. The long story short of it is that I ended up being like a tug-of-war toy on the ground. One of them had my lower right leg and one of them grabbed hold of my little finger. Like, so as hard as it is, where it's like now May and it's still broken, which I'll explain in a moment, is that it's a fucking miracle, number one, that I'm alive, Number two, that the dog didn't grab my entire fucking hand. Like, that would have been a fucking mess, because this finger is a mess. And, you know, some people think that, like, oh, it's not healed because, you know, your body's not healthy, or like you're a healer, why isn't it healed? And it's like, well, you know, like, number one, when a dog grips on, they don't let go. And so it's like shredded along the bone, right? If you can imagine bone, like tooth shredding along the bone. So it's when you shred something, bits go everywhere. Yeah. The x-ray looked like popcorn, so they had to remove a lot of popcorn pieces of bone and couldn't put it back together. So there's a lot of bone missing to start with. And it's like I thought it was like a tree branch and trying to put a snapped tree branch back together, but the doctor said to me just last week, no, it's actually like a glass vase. I was like, oh, okay. So it's even kind of more shattered than I thought in a way, right? But also it's the little finger, so there's barely any bone to begin with, to then try and put something back together that's just like, you know, been shredded. And it's not a clean break. Yeah, it's not like you just chopped your finger. It's not like it just broke. Like, this is like shredding through tendons, top and bottom, bone. So it's like, it's a freaking mess. It's a mess. Right? It's not a clean break. It's not a tendon snap. It's all of it. And to heal a bone, you need to keep it still. To repair a tendon, you need to start moving it. And you couldn't do that. Like, do you know what I mean? So it was a fuck around from the start. And then because of the floods, and then all these public holidays that we've had on Monday, like, and this is the part of it, right? You might as well be cursed and you can't do anything about it. And this is my little like rant and fucking like so pissed, because so why do you think those animals attacked you? So I did a live stream back in January, just write betrayed if you would like to watch it. I think it's about an hour or 2 hour long live stream, because you know how I like explaining things properly if you care to listen. And it's called I Feel Betrayed by the Dark, because I realized there was lots of things and lots of reasons why they attacked me, if you may. But on a metaphysical reason, if you want to watch that live stream, I Feel Betrayed by the Dark, then you can watch that live stream and it explains it. So, because I don't want to go into that right now, because that's not the point. So the point of this live stream is that last week, after 5 weeks, I had the doctor's appointment, and it was 5 weeks because it's like they only have their clinics on Monday, and it's like been public holidays in Queensland, Australia for the past five weeks. So I went and had the appointment last week, and on the eclipse, mind you, on the blood moon eclipse, I never like move a live stream, especially rarely reschedule live stream, especially a full moon, because I always do the full moon live streams, full moon ceremonies on the actual peak. Unless it's at midnight or something, then we'll do it, you know, morning or night. But so last week I was at the doctor's appointment on like pretty much the peak of the like full moon eclipse, and he told me that no, we just need to amputate. And I'm like, you can imagine, right? I'm like, what? I wasn't laughing. I was fucking crying. I'm like, what do you mean? What do you mean that okay, so this Murray Kyle person, I'm sorry, but you're saying it's bothering you inside, that dark. Okay, if you haven't watched that live stream, please don't comment anymore, okay? You don't know me, obviously, so please don't, okay? There's lots of live streams explaining it. You can go and watch it. So, told me that I need to amputate it. I'm like, well, okay, well, how has that actually changed since like the last appointment, number one? And this is things that are like come afterwards, right? So in the moment, I'm like, need to amputate my finger. Yeah, okay. Then afterwards, I'm processing that, which has taken me a week to be able to even fucking talk about it to even anybody, except the people closest to me. And I was like, hang on a sec. So last appointment, you told me that we were going to have a second surgery with a bone graft from my pelvis and put 2 pins and a plate in there, 2 screws and a plate. But now you're telling me you need to amputate it. I'm like, what? What? Yeah. So that was a lot to process. Now, the thing that kind of pisses me off is that day 3 in hospital, I was like, can I just pay for private hospital and you send me over there? And she's like, oh, no, it won't be much longer. 2 days later, I finally get into surgery. And, and this is all reflecting on it, because right there in the moment, I'm like passed out from it. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm out of it. Do you know what I mean? So I wasn't really strong enough to be able to like, do you know what I mean? Like, and it's sort of been like that quite a bit. And I said it again to like my GP that I've now changed. And it's like, and she's like, we can't afford it. And like, it's just all this stuff. And then again, afterwards I'm processing and I'm like, what do you mean I can't afford it? I'm like, people go and pay 15 grand to get new tits put in. Like, do you think I'm not going to pay for a surgeon to fucking fix my finger? Like, for real? Like, where's the people's mentality here? Like, come on. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's kind of like, I don't know. It's just, anyway, the whole system, the whole public system, like we all know this, the systems need changing. Like they don't work properly. Like we all know this. And when you're in it, it's so frustrating, right? Anyway, so today I went to a different GP. And so I'm getting a second opinion next week. And then I went to a different GP and oh my God, she's like fucking amazing. And, and I told her the story. And so she helped me get a referral to a person in Brisbane. Well, I found the person in Brisbane and she gave me a referral because I was just like, this person, this is who I want. And that's what's happening. So I'm going to them in a couple of weeks because like, okay, I'd understand amputation if it was going gangrene, if it was like infected, which by the way, I did like the nuclear scan because I didn't want to fucking inject nuclear radiation into my body. But I did what they said because, yeah, okay, well, if you're going to then take me into surgery and I want to make sure it's okay, I'll listen to you and I'll do that. But now you're telling me you want to amputate even when there's no infection and you're like, no, nope. No. Do you know what it's reminding me of? It's reminding me of when the doctor told me I need to get my gallbladder out and I said no and I went raw vegan the next day and I did a cleanse for 3 months. No. This is about standing up to authority. Just because they're a doctor, just because they're a person of authority, doesn't mean that they have all the answers. Sure, they have answers. Every time I am sick, I go straight to the doctor. Because they give me a direct diagnosis and then I can decide how I'm going to heal. With the medication, with natural stuff, with both, whatever. Okay, but I'm not going to fuck around and be sick for a couple of weeks and then go to the doctor and then they give me a diagnosis. No, a smart healer, a smart empath goes to the doctor, gets a diagnosis. Doesn't mean that they have to take the medication that they give them, but you can take it as a backup, right? And then you go and work on your shit. I see so many people that they don't listen to the doctor's advice, or they don't listen to the healer's advice, or vice versa, or both. But then they wonder why they're still sick, but they're not willing to just go and get a fucking diagnosis. Doesn't mean that you have to listen to them, but you can get a diagnosis and then you know what you're dealing with and then you can heal it. And that's why I also did the nuclear scan to see if there's any infection. I knew there wasn't any infection in myself because I'd already been taking herbs and stuff, right? I knew personally because, I understand, like, it's got feeling in my finger. My nail's been growing. I've cut it several times. Like, it's not infected. Like, if it was gangrene and going off, well, then sure, like, cut my finger off, but it's fucking not. And I'm like, no. Find me a microsurgeon and find me the best fucking microsurgeon in Brisbane. Thank you very much. And let's go there. So anyway, I guess I'm just sharing because it's such a big thing that I've been going through and I haven't been sharing much of any of it because number one, I've needed to just block it out because it's been weeks and weeks of public holidays or you can't get in for this appointment until this date and meanwhile I'm just nursing a fucking broken finger. Do you know what I mean? It's and the bone is it just, anyway, there's more to the story that I can't share on live stream, but it's there's this, it's still functional. I just can't move it because it's stiff from everything and whatever. And obviously it's still broken, hence going to get more surgery, etc. But at the same time, it's just been such a fuck around. And the reason I'm sharing it is because I finally have processed to this point where I'm at now and how fucking infuriating I've been
Like, even with myself, like, I look back and I'm like, why didn't you ask that in that appointment? Why didn't you do this in there? Why didn't you get a second opinion, like, way back when? And, like, I was thinking about it, like, earlier today, and I'm like, well, technically you didn't need one then. Like, they were onto it. We were getting the tests. We were doing the thing. Like, it wasn't required. Like, do you know what I mean? And it's just like, and I guess I'm sharing because, like, it's been really fucking hard. Like, it has been so hard to, you know, somehow pull myself back together, deal with the PTSD, which still happens when I see dogs, like, you know, out in the street, like, and I've seen heaps of them the past week for some reason. There's all these dogs out. Like, I'm just like, what is actually going on? But anyway, and it's just like, it's been really fucking hard to, like, deal with the PTSD, to try and work, to try and, like, remember who I am. Hence why I'm coming on live stream and I'm like, actually, Hannah, you're, like, real, and your branding is about being real, and you get on live stream with your pajamas and you talk about the real shit, and you know, and it's like, if this is, like, if you can't do this, then who the fuck are you really? This is how you've always done it. Why would you fucking change that now? Like, just so much inner processing that I've gone around, because this really knocked me. It really, really knocked me. Like, it really did. Like, it took me quite some time to really come back to myself after that, which is like a no-brainer, of course, but the PTSD, the doing it alone, the, like, trying to run a household, run a company, like, deal with all the floods and the mold and the animals all with one hand, like, you know, and try and keep my business running, like, and at the same time, my business has been in the biggest expansion ever since. Like, not ever since, like, you know, like, I mean, I'm coming up to, so July will be 6 years that my company has been running online. And it is in the biggest revenue year that it's ever had. Like, it increases every year, and it's in the biggest revenue, like, that's ever had this year so far. We haven't even finished this financial year yet. Like, my team's growing. I finally figured out what I'm doing after all this time. Like, I'm like, oh, this is what reality awareness is about, and this is what healers do, and this is what we do in here, and this is how a team works. And, you know, like, I'm in the biggest expansion and dealing with the darkest clear out at the same time. Like, it is massive, and I'm sharing this because you can do both. It's not easy, and you fall apart, and you're, like, scrubbing mold on the walls, and you're like, why is this my life? How is this my life? But you also know where you've been, what you're going through, who you're helping, who you're about to help, what this is all about really, and where you're going. Even when it feels like all hope is lost, even when you don't understand why something has happened, but you do, but you don't, you keep going. You grieve, you bawl your eyes out, you straighten your fucking crown, and you get the fuck back on with it. And you bury shit while you deal with stuff, and then you deal with stuff and you unbury stuff and you deal with it, because this is the ebb and the flow of life. There's down days, there's broken hearts to deal with, there's clearing out the shit of all of this. And the darkest stuff and the biggest heartbreaks and the stuff that you wish that you didn't walk away from and the things that you didn't let go of, and you're throwing out more stuff. And I'm not just talking about material stuff here. Like, for me, I'm like, why did I move away from the beach? Like, that sort of stuff, right? And the stuff you threw out, perhaps. And you can be in the greatest expansion of your entire history. And you can be busting into new bubbles of reality that you've never been before, but you've always dreamed about. And you've learnt to be present with where you are. And you've learnt to be in the gratitude of where you are and still know where you're going to your concrete designed home, for example. And still be clearing out and in the midst of the deepest, darkest stuff. And you can experience all that in 1 hour. Less than 1 hour, let alone a day. Give me a week. Oh my God. So anyway, I just wanted to share that. Thanks, guys. Thank you, Penelope. Thank you. My PJs, they're the best, right? Celeste says they only diagnose from the so-called symptoms we present with. Speak of, report, or give direct evidence of photos or whatever. Even a blood test could be wrong if you get it on the day you are sick. Water heals and elimination of most packaged foods. Yes. Yes, we definitely know how to heal. But sometimes it's good to go and get a diagnosis. And that's right, even a blood test could be wrong, exactly. So I'm talking about, so I guess where I'm coming from when I share that part of my story is, you know, and that thing where it's like, you know, it's a little bit hard in today's current climate, if you may, of the world stuff. But back in 2000 and, would have been 2015. Would have been 2015, I think. 15 or 16, no, it would have been 2015. So I ended up having pneumonia. And I was waiting weeks before I'd go to hospital, to the doctor. I didn't know it was pneumonia. I just had a bad cough. And there was one day I couldn't get out of bed. It was like so feverish. And then like a couple of months later, and it was from heartbreak, right? At its core, that's what pneumonia is. Any chest stuff, heartbreak. You deal with the grief from your past relationship, breakup, yeah, that one. Or deceased loved one, or any big change that's made you grieve, and you didn't grieve it, you're going to get chest stuff, right? So let's not even talk about the current world climate, because I could definitely go into stuff around that. But then a couple months later, it started coming on again, and I was like, I'm going to go to the doctor straight away, get those antibiotics, and like, you know, straight away diagnose me. And I'm like, yep, I'm not going to do that again, right? I'm not going to wait like 6 weeks before I'm like ill and can't get out of bed with fever and stuff. And it was like a couple of days before Christmas. It wasn't good. So I guess that's where like, you know, that sort of comes from, in a sense of like, they can give us a quick diagnosis, and then we can, like for me, I took the antibiotics home, I put them on the bench, and because I knew what it was, right? And this is the thing with us healers, with us empaths, with, you know, people that get the metaphysic and the spiritual stuff, right? Because yes, it's food and elimination and healthy food and water and fasting and all that sort of jazz. But if you also don't look at the metaphysical stuff, all that shit will come back as soon as you start eating the crap stuff. Like, you know, like to really transform at a matter level, you need to deal with the metaphysics of it as well, right? So I knew that it was pneumonia. I knew that it was still leftover grief from the heartbreak. And I was like, okay, I'll put those antibiotics there and I'm going to give it a day or two, because I knew that if I dealt with the grief, I wouldn't have to take them, because that's actually what it was. Yeah. So I guess that's where I was coming from with that. But of course, fasting, juicing, healthy food, etc. Definitely, like everyone needs a detox, right? Michelle says, what's the nuclear scan? Is that when you have to be injected with iodine? I don't know if it was iodine. It was actually like nuclear radioactive stuff. Like, so they drew my blood, they mix it with nuclear radiation stuff. They spin it in a machine so it mixes with my blood properly, and then they inject it back into my body. I go away for a couple of hours. It's like 4 hours or something like that. And then they put me under the machine, and it's like it glows or something. So it glows around where the infection was. Now, she couldn't tell me anything, and I knew, right? Because she's like, at the start, she's like, oh, we can see it straight away on the screen. And I was like, you know, so then afterwards I asked her, I'm like, so did you see anything? Like, she came in actually, and she's like, get up now. I'm like traumatized laying there. And she's like, oh, is it at the end? And I was like, no, it's here. And from that, I was like, oh, so could you see anything? And she's like, oh, I can't tell you have to speak to your GP. And I'm like, yeah, you couldn't fucking see anything because you asked me if it was at the end. And I knew myself, I'm like, I knew the fucking wasn't anything in it. I didn't want to get it in my body. Like, it was the biggest deal ever. No. Oh, it's safe. Of course it's safe. Don't get me started. Yeah. Celeste says, saying no and going with your feelings is sometimes good, and sometimes they are overprotective, which is actually invasive procedures and can do more harm than good, except in emergency situations. Yeah, exactly. And I've always said, you know, like there's a time and a place for the medical. Like when this happened, I wanted the ambulance to come and get me, for fuck's sake. Like I was bleeding out my fucking legs and shit. Like, do you know what I mean? Like I'm so lucky. I'm so lucky that, you know, they didn't get a vein or my face or my neck or my fucking hand. Like, you know, at the end of the day, like I'm traumatized and I'm going through a lot of shit, but fuck, it could have been a lot worse. And I'm so lucky. I'm so lucky. So lucky. Yeah. Shelley says, I'm going through both right now too. I feel your words. Thank you. Yeah, you're so welcome, guys. Lee says, I watched the replay. Yes. Michelle says, okay, that's different to what I had for something else. It's weird. I know, it's so weird. So weird. I was like, I knew. But a psychic can't tell a doctor, you know? Whatever's. No, I'm just being silly. Leah says, you drink orange juice to get the crap out of your body quicker. It's funny, I've been craving so much orange juice. Funny about that. I always listen to my body. We've been drinking a lot of orange juice. Like, you know, so at my local IGA, they even make it there. And then when we're at the markets, we got like the orange juice, and then there was lime and orange, and like then there was, what was the other one? There was a third one we got. I don't remember. Mandarin, just mandarin by itself. Did I say that? Anyway. But it's funny because a week before that, I went to the markets and bought a whole heap of oranges. Like, I love making orange and lime and lemon juice. Like, I just love it. I just can't get enough of it. And we had heaps of it. So we had like all the glass like jugs filled up in the fridge and stuff. We just drank heaps of it. It's interesting, right? Trust your body. Trust your body. All right, guys. That's all I wanted to say. My chamomile tea is done. I've said what I need to say. Thanks for listening. Life Purpose Accelerator, like I said, is closing soon, but when I checked, there's only 2 places left. So they either fill up or the doors close, whichever happens first. So this is my 12-month mentorship with me. Send me a message if you know that you need to work with me one-on-one. You get access to all the courses. That's Trust Intuition to be a certified intuitive healer, and the advanced certification. I was thinking about it. So this year, when I open the doors to Trust Intuition later this year, when we run our 2023 training, this will be the final year that you will be able to pay to get the certification and the advanced certification together. After that, the advanced certification, like after next year, so from next year, the advanced certification will be a separate investment. So right now you can still get both for the one investment price, but next year it'll be a separate investment price for the advanced certification. So just thought I'd say that now, because you do get Trust Intuition included in the Life Purpose Accelerator. That is the 12-month program with me. So there's one-on-one with me, you get unlimited access via Telegram. So that's voice message, text message, me in your back pocket in our pajamas and getting dressed up to the nines and all the things at the same time. So that's like the Telegram support. We get distance healings, video calls. We shift so much on those video calls. I love it. I love working with my clients that way. All the ways, and psychic readings, of course, that's a no-brainer in my space. And reality reconfigurations. There's also all courses. So you get Transcendence Reality Society, any meditations that I release. You're the VIP in the space for 12 months. So send me a message if you know that I am your mentor, and if you've got questions about it, we can chat about it. I can send you the link. So there's only 2 places left, or the doors close soon, whichever comes first. I love you guys. Thank you for being here.